Australia promotes itself as a dream destination, an expanse of endless beaches, an easygoing lifestyle, and abundant economic opportunity. Yet beyond the glossy tourism campaigns lies another reality rarely advertised. Across the country, certain towns face crime rates comparable to developing nations. Some cities sit atop housing markets that resemble ticking time bombs. In other communities, economic collapse has hollowed out once stable neighborhoods, pushing even lifelong residents to pack up and leave. What connects these places is a pattern that becomes unmistakable once recognized. Job losses trigger population decline. Shrinking populations weaken housing demand. Falling demand scares off investment, and the absence of investment accelerates the downturn. It is a self-reinforcing death spiral, one that, once underway, almost never reverses. This countdown examines 15 locations in Australia where relocating in 2026 could prove to be one of the worst financial decisions imaginable. A few entries may genuinely surprise you. Rockhampton stands as an unlikely example. When people picture dangerous cities, Queensland's cattle country rarely comes to mind. Yet Rockhampton now ranks #1 nationally for crime, recording 132 offenses per 1,000 residents, roughly one crime for every 8 people. Assaults, theft, and burglaries dominate the figures. This is not the result of a sudden crime wave. Instead, the city's economic base has eroded quietly over many years. Youth unemployment remains high, job opportunities are limited, and substance abuse compounds the strain. In that pressure cooker environment, petty crime has become one of the few sectors showing growth. Alice Springs follows, a town operating under emergency-style controls. After alcohol restrictions lapsed in July 2022, incidents of assault and property damage surged dramatically. By 2023, authorities reinstated strict measures: no takeaway alcohol on Mondays or Tuesdays, tight purchase limits, and reduced trading hours. The strategy failed to deliver lasting results. In November 2024 alone, police documented 191 assaults and 166 break-ins. By March 2024, officials had declared an emergency, imposing a curfew for anyone under 18. Alice Springs now ranks as the 18th most dangerous place globally, and restrictions are scheduled to remain in force until 2027. Even more revealing, the tough alcohol rules cut consumption by only 26%, meaning nearly 3/4 of residents still found ways to drink. The deeper issues, intergenerational trauma, poverty, and overcrowded housing, remain unaddressed. The symptoms receive attention while the underlying illness spreads unchecked. Tennant Creek presents another sobering case. In 2017, the town recorded a homicide rate of 59.6 per 100,000 people, more than 11 times higher than that of the United States. The figure is accurate and staggering. Extreme isolation defines the community, located 900 kilometers from the nearest major center. Employment depends almost entirely on mining. When mining activity slows, alternative work simply does not exist. A fly-in, fly-out workforce fragments the social fabric, leaving permanent residents to shoulder the social fallout. Darwin illustrates how downturns can empty a city altogether. Its crime index ranks 3rd highest nationwide, with assault cases rising 17% in recent years. Yet crime tells only part of the story. During previous mining slowdowns, Darwin did not merely experience slower growth, it lost population outright. Its remoteness limits employment diversity, so when resource sector jobs disappear, few fallback options remain. As residents depart, housing demand falls. Businesses close, prompting further migration. The cycle feeds itself. Cairns offers what looks like diversification success on paper, branching into health, defense, and aviation while maintaining a tight rental vacancy rate of 0.7%. However, structural unemployment persists between 8% and 11%, consistently above the state average. Each industry carries employment ceilings. Historically, tourism, aviation, and defense contract during recessions. Should they decline simultaneously, Cairns would lack a buffer. As one analyst bluntly observed, buyers who entered 3 years ago profited, but a correction now appears increasingly likely. Townsville demonstrates what happens when infrastructure fails to keep pace. The 2016 closure of the Yabula nickel refinery triggered population losses, falling property values, and a lengthy recovery. Similar risks loom again. BHP has suspended nickel operations affecting 3,000 workers. Ford eliminated 700 positions. Alcoa's refinery closure will remove another 800 jobs by 2026. Meanwhile, the city requires 5,600 new homes within 5 years, but lacks the trunk infrastructure, roads, sewer systems, and water capacity to support expansion. Construction would need to jump 67% merely to meet present demand. That scale of growth is not occurring. Without government intervention, the local enterprise CEO warns, the housing crisis will intensify. Even a $36 billion pipeline of major regional projects now hangs in the balance. Geelong, just an hour from Melbourne, has emerged as Australia's unexpected GHB crisis frontline. The city accounts for 1/3 of all liquid ecstasy ambulance callouts outside metropolitan Melbourne, surpassing inner-city totals. Drug manufacturing rose 93%, trafficking increased 23%, and overall criminal incidents climbed 11% in a single year. Regional areas lack specialized drug treatment facilities, leaving ambulances as the primary response. The margin between a GHB high and a fatal overdose is perilously thin. In fact, regional ambulance attendances are 31% more likely to lead to severe outcomes. The Gold Coast exemplifies housing volatility. After experiencing the nation's second steepest property boom, it now faces heightened correction risk. Apartment vacancy rates climbed from 1.1% to 2.0%, an 82% year-over-year increase. Though the figures appear modest, they signal investor withdrawal. When capital growth stalls, owners of multiple properties often rush to sell. Each listing adds supply to a weakening market. Median unit prices have even overtaken Sydney, erasing the city's reputation as an affordable coastal alternative. Entry points now exceed $1.2 to $2 million, fundamentally shifting the risk-reward equation. Broken Hill tells a long story of decline. In 1933, it ranked as New South Wales' third-largest city with nearly 27,000 residents. Today it stands 128th, with just over 16,000 people, a 14% drop in the past 20 years alone. The population continues shrinking at 1.19% annually. Paradoxically, median house prices tripled from $47,000 in 2003 to $185,000 in 2023. That rise reflects not opportunity, but the absence of outside buyers. Existing residents hold property, while newcomers stay away. Infrastructure fragility underscores the risk. In October 2024, one storm toppled 7 transmission towers, cutting electricity to the entire city. Broken Hill has never secured a permanent water supply capable of meeting demand. A shrinking tax base struggles to fund essential repairs. Young residents leave for opportunities elsewhere and rarely return. The median age rises steadily, and census data consistently records fewer private dwellings, clear evidence of residential retreat. Kalgoorlie-Boulder faces similar demographic erosion. Since 2013, an estimated 3,712 residents have departed. In the 12 months ending June 2024 alone, another 572 left. Gold mining dominates the local economy. When commodity prices fall or operations consolidate, alternatives vanish. Fly-in, fly-out workers spend earnings in Perth or overseas, starving local businesses while extracted wealth exits the region. Mount Isa's vulnerability extends beyond mining dependence. In 2013, after the driest stretch since 1967, Lake Mandara, its primary water source, fell to critically low levels. Climate change increases drought frequency, and mining consumes vast water resources. A severe dry spell could force simultaneous water restrictions and mine shutdowns. An economy reliant on a single, water-intensive industry in an increasingly arid climate amounts to a high-stakes gamble. Hobart presents a different paradox. Rental vacancy sits at just 0.4%, among the tightest rates nationwide. Over 5 years, rents surged 43%, while the median house price climbed to $735,000, placing ownership beyond many average earners. Yet affordability, is only part of the challenge. Rising sea levels, intensifying heat waves, drought, flooding, and bushfire threats already drive insurance costs upward. Eventually, climate pressures could trigger an insurance crisis that pushes residents out. Hobart stands squeezed between housing stress and environmental risk, without robust economic dynamism to counterbalance either force. Wollongong is preparing to complete 840 apartments in 2026, with hundreds more underway. At first glance, that suggests growth. However, current apartment prices remain too low to justify profitable construction, and the incoming supply may depress values further. The median house price has reached $1.27 million, yet capital growth historically lags behind larger regional centers. Unemployment climbed to 5.9% in 2024 and continues rising. If construction employment contracts while new units flood the market, rental conditions could soften abruptly. Adelaide's experience highlights how quickly sentiment shifts. 18 months ago, it was Australia's standout market. Today, investor confidence is eroding. Once capital growth slows, heavily leveraged property owners often sell in panic, creating sudden supply spikes. Broader mortgage stress and affordability constraints further restrain price momentum. Speculative funds have moved on, leaving fundamentals exposed. Perth contributes the highest number of suburbs, 27 in total, to a property industry blacklist identifying no-go zones for investors. Oversupply, distorted price ratios, and weak fundamentals define these areas. High-density inner-city precincts, regional coastal towns, and suburbs that boomed during the pandemic now face corrections. Among the red flag locations are Canning Vale, East Cannington, Burswood, Claremont, Bentley, Scarborough, and Coolbellup. Investors anticipate declines that may already be unfolding. Easy money poured in quickly during the boom and now exits even faster. Across all 15 locations, the same trajectory repeats. Employment losses reduce population. Lower population weakens demand for housing and services. Investment retreats. Decline accelerates. Broken Hill's downturn has spanned 90 years. Alice Springs required emergency interventions. Townsville struggles to build critical infrastructure. Geelong confronts rising overdoses while health resources thin. The Gold Coast witnesses investor retreat in real time. The issue is no longer whether these communities will face hardship. The pressing question is whether residents can afford to leave before the consequences fully materialize. For many Australians already locked into these markets, the answer grows increasingly bleak. In today's property landscape, the smartest move may not involve chasing the next boomtown. It may require identifying places that have already crossed the point of no return and keeping a very wide distance from them.